Hello and welcome to episode 401 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now joining me on today's episode is Matthew Murphy, the singer and guitarist and songwriter from the incredible band the Wombats. This is a great interview, very in-depth, very kind of thoughtful, and the pace is different to what I normally do. It was quite challenging, but in a good way, and I found myself really engaged with him. And I won't spoil it, but the chat goes all different areas that you never even imagine. And I'm going to be giving you that interview in just a couple of minutes' time. Now you know the score by now. I like to use the intro for every episode of Mark and Me to touch base and talk about my last episode. How can I not mention episode 400? This was with my absolute idol, Kevin Smith, the man I launched the podcast with 8 years ago. He came back, we celebrated the big milestone, and it couldn't have gone better. My most downloaded episode of all time, and it's only a week old. Insane. Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in, everyone that listened, everybody that went on YouTube and watched it. I've seen more people sharing this episode than anyone else, and I'm so grateful. It couldn't have gone better. I know Kevin loved it, and I'm going to hold him to it. I will get him back before I get to the big 450. You watch, I'll make it happen. But today, it's all about the Wombats. And before I give you that interview, let's give a quick shout out to the first sponsor of Mark and Me, the amazing Vice Press. If you're a fan of films and pop culture, please check out vicepress.com. They have limited edition posters, art prints, and collectibles, and they're all officially licensed and made for fans like me and you guys out there to collect and display in your own home. They're absolutely gorgeous. They work directly with artists, and they make sure that they create these artwork and designs that are exclusive just to Vice Press. You won't find them anywhere else. And the good thing is, these guys give you 10% off if you use the discount code MarkandMe10. How good is that? Perfect timing for Christmas. Go and treat someone to something awesome, or go and ask Santa for something from Vice Press, and you'll get 10% off if you use the discount code MarkandMe10. Right, let's get back to today's interview. Like I said, it's a different type of interview for me. I'm so grateful for the time I'm given, and it's great to talk about the Wombats in great detail. Right now, as you're sitting here, they haven't got a new album out yet. You've got to wait till February the 21st. But you can hear the brand new single, Sorry I'm Late, I Didn't Want to Come, which is absolutely awesome. And here is now me and Matt talking all things the Wombats. Back and forth from coast to town, yeah, that approach, it won't work now. Maybe I'll pour concrete on the boomerang, try to move beyond the pranging out, You know I tend to think in forevers, my mood it swings like the weather. So Murph, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. What I love to do with all guests that come on the podcast, and it doesn't matter what walk of life you've been on, is take it right back to the start. So I'm always intrigued when you were growing up, maybe with your pocket money, or someone in your family may have gave you an album, but what was that first CD or tape you remember being given that made you fall in love with music?
I want to say it's probably Michael Jackson Thriller, which is a good one. I remember listening to that a lot as a kid, and then I ended up getting into happy hardcore for quite a few years, which was horrendous. But yeah, it was Thriller, then happy hardcore, and then I heard Radiohead Creep, and that was it. And then I was kind of on board in the kind of alternative rocky pop landscape.
Did Radiohead save you from buying all those massive cassettes of happy hardcore where you get 8 cassettes in a box set each time and listen to stuff like DJ Dougal and Vibes and stuff?
No, they did not save me from that. I mean, they saved me from, I think I only had 2 or 3 box sets. But yeah, I mean, you could have probably put a 0 on that if it wasn't for Radiohead. Christ. Yeah.
People try and always bury those kind of memories and just never talk about them again. So I'm glad that we've started the interview really open and honest. And you're like, "Yep, I was that guy. I loved it."
Oh yeah, there'll be no repressing of old coming from me.
Michael Jackson's a hell of a good one to start with. I had Bad on tape, and I remember being obsessed and listening to it. And I genuinely, people say this always, and kind of, it's a lie, but I did listen to it so much it broke because it was on my Walkman. Then I'd get home and listen to it, and I was obsessed. And I used to remember like watching Top of the Pops and seeing the music videos were like movies. He didn't care if he did like a 9 minute music video, and I was always like, the guy's a genius.
Yeah, he was a genius, and I remember watching the Thriller video and being young enough to feel a little bit scared.
That's right, 'cause it's like a whole horror, isn't it, itself?
Like I already knew the song before I'd seen the video somehow. Um, but I mean, yeah, what a body of work that is.
I mean, Radiohead, one of my favorite bands of all time. I think OK Computer changed my life, and then when they did Kid A, I thought it was one of the bravest steps they've ever done. But it changed music, and I was like, "How are you ever going to top this?" And then In Rainbows, personally, is my favorite album.
Yeah.
So I can see that that must have had a huge impact on you listening to Creep, and then going on that whole journey of a band that evolved. Like I've never seen another band evolve like they do.
I mean, yeah, I was in like a Radiohead cover band in Liverpool for a bit. I think I got kicked out of one. Um, so I started my own. Um, but yeah, I remember going, my friend had like somehow ripped Kid A off of Napster or something. And I went round to his house and we were playing pool and I couldn't when Everything in Its Right Place came
Oh
on.
wow.
I kind of thought that the first 10 seconds of it, I was like, this can't be Radiohead. Like he's having me on. This is not, this isn't actually the
No.
album. And then just as it went on and got more intricate and yeah, I remember just being blown away. And I think, yeah, that's, I mean, I just having the balls and audacity to do that is, well, it's the reason why they are Radiohead.
Yeah. So I'm trying to work out your kind of age and stuff now. So, did that make you, by listening to Radiohead, want to be in a band? Did you then pick up a microphone or a guitar and start thinking, this is what I want to do? Or was it later on, did you go to college and do the whole school battle of bands thing and all that?
My dad had me playing classical guitar from the age of like 5 or 6,
Wow.
and I didn't. I There was something therapeutic about it, but I didn't enjoy like the sight reading and the lessons and stuff, and I didn't really practice that much. But I could, yeah, I had like a decent, firm understanding of music from an early age, I think, and lots of guitars, and so it was really just all teed up for me to get into guitar music, I think. Um, and then it was just like, well, how do you play an electric guitar and that? And then yeah, lots of bands, lots of terrible bands, Radiohead rip-offs, to be honest. And yeah, that was kind of how it started.
You said then as well you were in a like a Radiohead kind of tribute covers band. Were you trying to play all the Johnny Greenwood parts?
I wasn't trying. I could play Johnny Green. Yeah, oh my God. When I was 17, I tried out for a Radiohead cover band called Fake Plastic Trees. They were like the biggest Radiohead cover band in Liverpool. I didn't get in. Don't know why. I think I was just too young and not like they wanted like, mid 30s kind of
Yeah.
mood vibes. Anyway, and then I kind of basically started my own with some friends at school, and then we did Battle of the Bands and things like that, and kept doing that for feels like 3 or 4 years until I realized, or something clicked where I realized that I could use this medium to be myself, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh, and I didn't have to write foggy, ambiguous lyrics. I could do something uh, much more like pokey than that. And that was from probably going to like lots of indie clubs. There's an indie club called Liquidation that I used to go to every um, weekend, and they play a lot of Smiths, Pulp, things like that. And I think that really kind of reset my brain to think that, you know, there are other, there's a lot of great music out there, and you can kind of do what you want.
So, at what point was it you realised that you could sing? I know it sounds ridiculous, but you're playing guitar a lot. You're in bands playing guitar. At what point are you sitting there thinking, "Do you know what? I'm going to have a go at singing as well."
Battle of the Bands at Liverpool College, and it was I sang High and Dry, and people didn't start vomiting. So that was when I knew.
It's not an easy one to sing either.
Well, my falsetto is pretty good, and
Yeah.
I was very young at the time. I think the shock was more like not that I could sing, but that I could sing that high with ease.
So, did you get a taste for it at this point? Are you thinking, I want to be a front man? I want to do my own thing. I want to write my own music. I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to keep playing covers and do battle of bands. I just want to be original.
I don't know. That's a hard question because I don't think I ever wanted to be a front man. I still don't want to be a front man.
It's a
Um,
little bit late now.
yeah, it might be a bit late. And I've been very lucky to have been blessed. I don't know if that's the right word, but I have like I have a voice, and I don't really see, there's no other option apart from it coming out of me. So, um, I didn't, yeah, I didn't like, I like being in bands and playing guitar, but I didn't really want to be the front man of a band. I didn't have any aspirations for, um, fame or celebrity or anything like that, really. I just, have a decent amount of shit going on, and kind of need to sing about it, or else I'm fucked.
I like your honesty, and it's surprising how many bands I speak to, and always the frontman, vocalist, songwriter is always like, I didn't ever want to do this. It just happened because I was the only one in the rehearsal or the practice room that would just sing, and then before you knew it, I was the singer, and then you're like, wow. And now you front one of the biggest bands in the world. It's frightening that nobody actually went, oh, I want to be the singer. It kind of just gets dumped on you.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. You want to be Johnny Greenwood, don't you? You don't want to be Tom York.
Yeah. Especially if it comes to
Or,
scoring film soundtracks, I'd much rather be Johnny Greenwood.
yeah, or I don't know. You want to you want to be able to choose whether you're in the background or the foreground. You want to be able to choose what it is you do. I think, which some band members can maybe. I feel like you can disappear into the darkness and come into the light when you so desire. But when you're a front man, it's basically no one cares. Get up, the lights on, off you go.
It was blowing my mind because I don't do too much research before interviews because I like a conversation just to naturally flow. I don't want to sit here with a piece of paper and say, now ask him about a first album. So I just like to just be organic and see what happens. And I was really blown away when I was looking at the dates, and I was like, it was never 2003 that you met the other band members. I'd like 20 years, it's blown my mind a little bit. And I saw that you were at Lipper, and I was wondering, did you go to Lipper to hopefully pursue a career as a songwriter and be in a band and make it and have that as like a thing to keep your parents happy and kind of have something to fall back on? Or was it you went there specifically to do production or editing, or what was the reason you actually went to Lipper?
Well, in when I was seven, I was an okay student so I need to go back a bit to answer. I was an okay student at school, like
Yeah.
B's, low B's. One of the people that didn't really apply himself. And then when I was 16, 17, 18, when I was doing all this kind of radio heady stuff, I started smoking a lot of weed, and my A levels went to crap. I was doing with in bands, just kind of. I was out in Liverpool doing music and watching shows and stuff. And so my A levels were not good. I didn't get, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what was going on. I knew that I had a passion for music. Um, and yeah, I did this diploma course at LIPA that then became the degree. But I didn't go there. I didn't know what I was doing at all. There was no no plan other than, well, I quite like music. Maybe I'll give that a go. Um, and then, I was writing a lot of songs, and I remember my mum trying to get me to stop writing songs and like join this wedding band that a couple of friends were in. Um, and so I tried, but I didn't get in that either. So like I kept writing songs, and then there was one teacher at LIPA, Mark Pearman, who um like took me aside and spoke words of encouragement that I'd never I'd never had before. Um and just gave me a lot of confidence, and that's what and then I was like, well, he says I'm great, so I'm just gonna choose to believe it and work really hard. Um but before he had said anything, I had no idea why I was there or what I was doing, or um maybe I was gonna, score some stuff. I had no idea what I was doing.
I never do, even now, so it's not a bad thing. Did your mum saying to you, son, go and join a band, make some money doing covers, be that wedding band, it's probably a future for you. When you turn around, you're like, well, actually, I'm gonna start a band called the Wombats. I'm gonna do EPs. I'm gonna release my own music with my mates. Were they like, look, son, you need to get a proper job. This isn't an option? Or were they like, yeah, we believe in you. We believe you've got a talent and it should be used?
I would love to say the latter, but that was not. It was not. It was not that. It was it was really about 3 years of being in the Wombats. But when we got a publishing deal, and the radio started playing us, then it was like, oh, okay, we should maybe see where this goes or something. I don't know. Um, but I didn't, and it wasn't like they weren't supportive, because they, I'm not, I'm just, my dad, you know, would buy me amplifiers, and like he was really supportive. Maybe I only remember this kind of wedding band thing, and I haven't gotten over it yet. Um, but it wasn't go pour your heart and soul into this, because you can always go back to education in the future, which, is what I would say to my kids.
That's fair. And I think the fact that if you got on the radio is probably a bit of confirmation for them to be like, okay, he's quite serious. And then having an album that was successful and a good debut and lots of EPs, and then the big debut full album itself, you must have been pretty happy with the way things were going, because I know you'd worked for 3 or 4 years to get to that point, but winning NME awards, having top 20 albums, stuff like that, it all is a huge pat on the back to start with, isn't it? It's not like you grafted for 20 years and then you just about got people listening to you. It was quite good success.
We were one of the last bands out the gates, before the gates like literally closed on that style of music, I think. And yeah, we had quite like an impactful start, I think.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, but it does feel like it has been a kind of snowball effect, like incremental progress rather than like fucking Arctic Monkeys, Jules Holland, straight off to the races kind of thing.
I feel like I've had a lot of bands on here, and they're bands like Incubus that have worked their way up, and you see them now reaping the rewards for 20 years in the industry. And a band that I absolutely adore, Biffy Clyro, Simon Neil came on, and we sat down and chatting. And I feel that they put all the graft in, and then after a decade, just about got to the point where people were like, actually, let's give them a chance.
Yeah.
And I feel like, with absolute full respect, You had a great start. It was a really nice journey for you to start on. People were taking you seriously. You got great reviews. But it's after 10 years that you're really seeing this kind of progression. And I think you developing as a band and maturing and as songwriters, definitely finding yourself and probably being happy with the people around you. It wasn't overnight success, was it? It wasn't like you busted or like you said, Linkin Park, bands like this that's just literally you can't believe that the next thing they're suddenly number one and selling out arenas. You've worked your way up to this point today.
Yeah, it wasn't yes, for me it wasn't really until album 4, so like 2018, 2019, that I could see the
Yeah.
hard work paying off. We were like I kind of know Simon Neil, and they were signed to 14th Floor when like literally probably within the same month that we got signed to them, and um worked very closely with the same people that we were working for at the same time. And I kind of felt like Christian, who was the head of the label, was playing Biffy and the Wombats off each other. It seemed like Biffy would release a single and the Wombats would release a single. Where he felt like, as songwriters, he was playing myself and Simon off one another and trying to keep us competitive in that way. That was my weird take. But anyway, it wasn't until 2018, after we were let go by Warner's, and I had a pretty sizable um, mental collapse, I would say, that we released our 4th album, Beautiful People Will Ruin Your Life. I kind
Yeah.
of thought maybe this is game over. And it turned out that it was fucking game on. And that was a big change for the band, and a big change for me, thinking, well, actually, I don't need your approval. Um, we can do this ourselves. Um, if anything, maybe you guys were holding us back somewhat. Um, yeah, I think we're the only band to have been dropped by a major label to then have released the next album and it be bigger than the one before.
Yeah, it's unheard of, isn't it? It's insane, but it's great for you. And I think I don't want to get too deep too early for you, but if you said you had a really bad time and you were rock bottom, maybe bouncing back and not having the label telling you what to do and having control again and feeling like your music's yours and not having someone tell you how to produce it or how it's to sound. That must have been such a breath of fresh air and probably what you needed. Otherwise, you would have just, it's a downward spiral, isn't it?
Yeah, we had the same producer produce, albums 4 and 5 that produced 3, so we kind of knew how we wanted it to sound and what it wasn't going to be massively different. It wasn't like, oh, now we're out of Warner, let's um you know uh let's get the triangles out or anything.
Bring the harp out, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um it was a scarier unknown territory. It was an unknown quantity that worked out well for us and gave us a big boost that I think we needed and deserved. Yeah.
When you're in the studio and you're recording stuff like Fix Yourself, Not the World, are you conscious of being able to perform it live and do it justice? Because obviously in the studio you can sit there and do so many guitar dubs and overtakes and really make it sound a lot beefier. And when it comes to playing live, sometimes if you haven't got, 8 or 9 people on stage, it's really difficult, isn't it, to represent and do justice to those songs. I've seen you guys at various different, UK shows, and I always feel like you've done the songs justice. But sometimes I've gone to gigs at festivals and seen them and gone, God, that doesn't work live. Have you always kind of been conscious in the studio of not overdoing it, so then it falls flat when it comes to playing live?
There have been moments, but uh there are there are a myriad of ways to make the live show sound great, and we utilize those. And it's so important in when you're in the studio to be present and to make the most exciting record, freshest record possible. That I don't think you can think about the I just think it's inherently that it's bad for the record to think about performing the record live at all
Yeah.
when making it.
No, that's fair.
I remember when we worked with Jackknife Lee on the second album, and he had a big sign that said something like "You're recording an album, not playing an album," or something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand it at the time, but um, I guess it was just to encourage complete, creative freedom um, in the recording studio. Um, yeah.
If I come and told you when you got dropped from your label and you were rock bottom that you'd have a UK number one album, would you have told me to fuck off?
Yeah. One 100%.
How's it
Yeah.
feel now? Does it feel like you can reflect and look back, even though you're so incorporated in the band, you're the songwriter, you are the band? Does it feel like you can ever take a step back and say, we've achieved something that's historic. We've done something really special. Like it's a hell of an achievement.
Yeah. I kind of I take more um the number one album is great, and I want more of them. And I'm not doing it a disservice, but I take more um encouragement from live shows and seeing how that's grown and stuff, and seeing how many people still want to come and see us, and how it's absolutely nuts that a lot of them are like um probably didn't hadn't heard of the Wombats till album 5 or album 4. Um, it's not as easily measurable as like an an official charts number one gold thing in your face, but um, uh, I try to get my if I ever let my ego get the best of me, it's around that, not so much the number one. If that makes sense. I don't know if
No,
it
no, of
does.
course. It's not like a trophy, is it? It's more about the journey.
Uh, yeah, but maybe I just prefer big shows as the trophies rather than the actual trophies.
Yeah. Have you been able to ever take a sidestep and look back or reflect on how far you've come? The fact that you do these smaller shows at the start, the crowds were getting bigger, you do festivals and see your name going up the bill. Have you ever been able to really appreciate and really digest that progression, or is it too hard when you're so involved in it internally?
Yeah, no, I haven't really. Um, this is gonna sound all fucking. Um, what would the word be? Masculine or toxic in a way, but yeah, if I spend too much time looking back, like I am done for. Um, that's just how my brain operates. So it's either, I mean, I'm just focused on what's next. How do I get the next um, song that I'm obsessed with? What's the next? Just what's next? There've been moments where I've gone, wow, like I think this 20-year anniversary of the first album is going to feel kind of ridiculous. But even then, I'll be more intrigued as to what the seventh album's going to be. Um, then I'll be more concerned about what's happening next than I would be about celebrating um, the past. And that's probably not a good place to be in, really. I should be able to um, look back and enjoy that. Um, but I probably won't.
Sometimes it's really hard to self-reflect or even look back or even acknowledge your own achievements because sometimes it might feel not arrogant, but it might feel like it's not all about me, but it should be when you've done 20 years in the industry and you're selling shows that aren't, the tour next year's arenas. It's
Yeah,
it's it's epic. It's unbelievable. I've
there was just one thing I was going to say on that last
Yeah,
point,
of
which is
course.
happening more now, but um, artists never really talk about the realities of the work and how much hustling and ridiculous shit that they have to do. I think there's a perception that once a certain element of success is achieved, that people just sit back and kind of they've done it, they've made it. Whereas I don't think anyone like I always find it so refreshing when artists bigger than myself still talk about hustling, trying to find the next song, like being bigger, moving towards a higher goal, I guess. And I think it's because of that it's not that easy to reflect. There's not really that much time for reflection if you're really doing it, I don't think.
So do you think that's unhealthy or healthy?
Unhealthy.
Yeah. But you can't change that if that's the way you are. I admire bands. Some of my favorite bands in the world are Paramore, Thrice. I don't want to make this all about Radiohead, but Radiohead because they
Yeah.
never play it safe. They're always evolving. If you listen to their early albums and their later albums, Biffy Clyro, great example. Idlewild, bands like that, they're always talking about the future. They're not like, oh yeah, we've got a legacy. We could sell out arenas all across the world now. We've supported Taylor Swift. We could just do whatever. They're always wanting to carry on and try new things. And I think that's why I'm always the first to buy a ticket or buy their new albums because I'm always ready to see what journey they're ready to take me on next. And I'm sure that's the same for you.
Yeah, but a lot of it is like maybe these artists are hyper aware of their own shelf life and their own mortality, more so than you might think when you
Yeah.
make huge bands like that. But there is always there's a downward curve coming at some point, and most of us don't want to see it happen yet. If that makes sense.
No, it does. I had Brandon Boyd from Incubus on and Chino from Deftones, and both of those have had over 20 years now in the industry, like yourself. And I
Mm.
was always curious, especially when I speak to people like yourself and those guys, what it is that makes you want to carry on doing it. And I think you've answered it a bit for me already today that you're not content with where you're at.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I truly believe I don't even think and he may disagree and he may say this, but I don't even think someone like Chris Martin's content with where he's at.
No.
I think I think he is trying to do different things and better things constantly, probably to the detriment of his own mental health as well.
But do you think that happens to most artists? When I listen to one of my favorite bands ever is Pearl Jam. I love what they do. And when I go and see them now, they're not just winging it. They're putting everything into it. They're still writing new albums. They're still trying to
Yeah,
get something. And you think, well, how many albums do you have to sell? How many arenas do you have to sell out? How many incredible milestones do you have to tick off until you're satisfied? And perhaps you never are. Perhaps why that's you still get Bruce Springsteen touring. You still get bands that don't need to do it anymore because there's still
yeah,
that hunger.
yeah. Well, Bruce Springsteen, I don't know what's going on
I think he
with.
might be a robot. I think one day we'll discover it and it will all be out as in the news that he was never human because I don't know how he still does 3.5 hour sets and
Yeah, it's insane. It's like he's the kind of human embodiment of like anabolic steroids or something. I don't know how it's possible to do what he does.
while he's here doing it, I'm going to still buy tickets. I'm still going to go and celebrate it. But do you think you'll ever reach the finishing line, or are you just happy to carry on? And the fact that your biggest success is now coming now, right now, as we're sitting here, the biggest shows you're playing, the number one album, the crowds are the biggest they've ever been. I feel like you're still at your peak, which is great. You've not took that downward spiral which we've talked about.
I want to get to album, you know, 9, album 10 with the Wombats, and
Yeah,
when when I've done that, I will. Um, there might be some time for some reflection,
yeah.
but I just want to be in that kind of um, in that world where we have such a back catalogue, and I want to know deep down, like when I'm in my late 40s or early 50s or whatever age I am at album 10, that I gave it like absolutely everything that I had. Um, I think then there might be some kind of yeah, I think there might be some kind of uh, moment for reflection and some element of like closure, but I kind of know that there won't be. It will just want to keep going.
Obviously, I've only met you today for the first time. I don't know you on a personal level, but I feel when I get guests on the podcast, I either click with them and I feel like I can chat away, or it's really tough and I'm like, oh God, like I'm looking at my watch. And with you, I feel like I scrape the surface and I could talk to you for hours. And I was
Thank you.
thinking today, I'm just trying to think of the words to get it right.
You don't have to get it right.
No, I'm just thinking to myself as someone that, I'm sure when you've hit rock bottom or you've been low and you have to try and find it within yourself to bounce back. Being a front man, doing a show, doing a gig, being the focus of the band, what do you find within yourself to be able to wear a mask or to be happy or to be I'm the guy that people want me to be when maybe I'm getting wrong, but maybe sometimes you might just want to shut the door and think I can't be doing with this today. And I mean this with full respect. I'm just
Of course. I the peak of this post album of this kind of between album 3 and 4 breakdown was I was spiraling. I was living in Stoke Newington, North London at the time, and I was like really spiraling. And I called my always had this like Aussie doctor, Dr. Bill. He's an absolute legend, and he got me, and he was like, this 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 is not good, and he got me a last minute meeting with I think like the number one psychiatrist based out in the UK, based out of Windsor. And and I had a consultation with him for like 2 hours in this mad place where there was all like a lot of city people, like still making like business
yeah,
deals, walking around with slippers on, it was
surreal.
surreal, but somewhat inspirational. Um, at this horrendous 2 hours where he's like, yeah, you need to relax and here's some antidepressants and I'll come and see you in a week. And then I drove that night to we had a show at Manchester Apollo. And then so I just drove from Windsor to Manchester Apollo, got out and like did the show. And all I was thinking about on the way there was like, how am I going to be able to do this? Like, I feel like my neck is on fire. My mood is not stable. This could be embarrassing. I remember speaking to Dan and Todd, telling them about my mental state, and like, I'm just saying, if I start saying some mad shit, or if I walk off, or if I start crying, like it's because of, you know, this place that I'm in right now. And they're like, totally get it. We'll, we'll, look out for it. It's gonna, thanks for letting us know. Um, and then, so just full of anxiety, got on stage, fucking had the best show ever. Absolutely loved it. Um, that was what brought me the kind of solace. But I spent the whole day in my head thinking that it was going to be this car crash of a show, but it was amazing and almost 100. Whenever I feel like that, it's usually only a show that can pull me out of it,
Yeah.
which is kind of ridiculous. Um, yeah. Did I answer your question, or did I just go off on a tangent now?
No, I think you've answered two questions for me because I was wondered how you find the strength to do the show if you're not feeling up to it, how you wear a mask, and also why you're still doing it 20 years on. And that might be the answer all there in that one answer
Yeah,
because Maybe it's therapy for you. Maybe it is the antidepressant. Maybe it is the lift you need. Maybe it's the high you need just to do what you love most, and that's what you are here for.
Yeah, but I also, alcohol's a pretty good mask as well. Alcohol is a good megaphone and a good mask. So I have used, that has been present when um, I'm generally not up for something, but um, I'm pretty much always up for it.
So how does it feel today knowing that I'll get the title right now? Sorry I'm late. I didn't want to come. It's out there for the world to hear. It's a taster for the album. I fucking love the production. I love the sound. I love everything on that track. I love the music video. I just love it all. I was just like instantly, when you're just like, I will love this. It's not something I need to kind of listen to and it will eventually be like, oh yeah, I'm warming up to this. It was instantly like, yeah, I love this track.
Yeah,
Um, which is a good thing. It's great to write an album that's full of growers, but I think you write hits and you write songs that are meant to be in your head and catchy. And already I can imagine it in the arenas. So I'm thinking,
thank you.
are you excited now to be playing new music? And I know it's March now when the tour comes, but to be playing these huge venues and playing these songs, and surely as a band that's been going 20 years, you want as much new stuff in there as you can to feel fresh, to feel challenged, to feel excited.
Yeah, I think I'm just genuinely, more so than other albums, which I've been quite open about. I'm genuinely excited about this album, and it feels new to me. And working with a new producer, working with John Congleton, and what he's done, and kind of how he has um, made it sound a bit rawer and a bit more real. There's like an element of there's like a few mistakes in there. It's less polished, which was kind of the goal, but he kind of exceeded my expectations for this, and I I feel like it's a good template for the next, at least couple of albums. So the whole thing just feels fresh to me, and I'm like, I've listened to it more times than I've listened to all of our other albums, probably. So that's a good sign from me. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to equate to anything, but I think it just means that I'm happy with the job we did.
Is it weird as a songwriter that's finished an album and then you're sat on it waiting? Because if I do an interview, I'm like, I want to get it out there now for the world to listen to because it's done, it's finished. I want to get it as fresh as possible. But I couldn't imagine having an album mixed, mastered, ready to go, and then you're sat there for 6 months or even longer waiting for the world to hear it because it must be like I've got my baby ready to introduce to the world and I can't.
Yeah. Well, I guess people want to make sure it gets the best introduction, I suppose, which is, I don't know if I probably wouldn't feel massively comfortable just having it done and releasing it,
Yeah.
but maybe not, one single 8 weeks, another single 8 weeks, drop album. I don't know. Um, I mean, it's not. This is pretty good. The last album, album 5, we were actually sat on it for over a year,
That's
which
crazy.
which was crazy. By the time it was released, it was like, like felt like I was halfway into the next thing.
I've got to say that it might be I have not got it yet, obviously it's not out, but it might be one of my favorite album covers ever.
Oh, really?
I just love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was thinking, is it like the Honey Monster?
It's this. um, I had this kind of like crazy moment at the beach, um, and that's why it's called Over the Ocean, because it was pretty much a spiritual experience, and I felt like I'd never actually seen an ocean before, even though I have many times. It was a real feeling, like a mushroomy feeling of like, what is that? How did that get here? I need answers now. Uh, yeah, it was complete awe at the miracle of consciousness and existence and life, and realizing that I'm just trapped in my own head, taking everything for granted all the time. Um, sorry. And so I wanted that like teddy bear eye, as if something you've seen it for the first time, or there's some
Yeah,
naive to the teddy bear eye. Um, and we put an ocean in it. Wham bam.
I love it. Album covers are important to me. I think because everyone streams music, not as many people. It's great that people are buying vinyl again and stuff like that. But there's a bit of a lost art. I think some people are just like, yeah, stick a logo on, do something like an ambitious street shot or something, and not as much thought went into it. But I just look at that instantly. I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like an iconic album cover instantly.
Thank you. I mean, doesn't I, am I going to be able to describe? Am I going to be able to say this? The It would be easy to just hire an artist, slap something together, and put it out there. But
Yeah.
I just feel if it resonates with me, obviously I've got to make sure the music and the words and everything resonates with me before sharing it. But if I can make everything resonate with me, then surely it has a better chance of a fulfilling life of its own. I don't know. Um, yeah, it's almost like way too easy to just knock something up and put it out there, which yeah, I don't know. It just feels lazy to me. But then again, like the Brat album cover's pretty iconic. I don't know.
I always think, will it look good on vinyl? Will it look good in 10 years? Will I be holding it and still thinking, that's a cool album cover? You know, it's not gonna, it stands the test of time, you know? I've got one final question for you today. I'm going to put you on the spot, but what I do with all guests, I'm just approaching episode 400 as we speak, and every guest that's come on has the same final question. And what I love to do is end the interview with you choosing a song that's played. So as it's all edited and ready for the world to listen to, and they've heard us talking for an hour, at the very end, a song will play, and it's the guest that's been on gets to choose it. Now, I do have a ban that you can't choose a Wombat song because you don't need to promote your band anymore. It's already going to do that on the interview. But a song that
Yeah,
means something to you. And I know any songwriter might have a million songs in their head right now, but there'll be one that comes to your heart and soul above all the rest. And I wondered why you think that came to you today, and I'd love to know what it is so I can include it in today's interview.
yeah. Um, it would be Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell, written by Jimmy Webb. Um, to me, it's just like if I could write a song like that, I'd probably give up. If I could write a lyric like, and uh, I'll get the lyric wrong now. I need you, and I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. It's like just unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
And it has all that whilst also containing some um cool 60s 70s Americana-esque, like people moving west to get it just has so much within it. I'm not doing a good job of explaining this at all,
I've
and
I've
it's a
never
really
heard it, so this is going to be a new one for me, which I'm really excited by.
okay. I think I think I hope it's going to be, and I think if you like Radiohead, especially early Radiohead, you're gonna shit yourself when you hear this.
Well, I'll not include me shit myself on the end of the episode, but I'm intrigued about
Well,
this, and
it is episode 400. You might as well with
I've
the
got
bang.
to be honest. You're not episode 400. You're just after that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's Kevin Smith for episode 400, the film director, but that's okay.
Well, save it for episode 500.
Yeah, I've just talked about sitting on an episode for an album for 6 months. That would be about 2 years away. I can't do that to myself. But genuinely, dude, I've been doing this podcast for 8 years, and I'm not just saying this now because you can listen to all my episodes if you want, and you'll never hear me say it. But I've really enjoyed today, and there's something that it just went on all these different journeys and deep, and talked about all these different subjects in only an hour, and yeah, I just had a really good time talking to you. So I really appreciate your time and coming on the podcast and making it happen.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I this has been the best podcast I've done. I haven't done that many, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Felt very uh relaxed, and it's been therapeutic. Thank you.
It was like a counselling session, wasn't it? I'll bill you at the end. I'll send you a £200 invoice. But I will come and see you in March. You're playing near me in Manchester, so it's a Saturday. So I'll bring my wife and I'll come and say hello. And yeah, I'll come to that show because it's a Saturday. So she's a teacher, so I'll make sure we come along.
No, thank you, Mark. Thanks so much.
So there's my interview with me and Matt. And as I said, you probably heard on the interview, he likes to be called Murph, so we'll go with that. What a great interview. One of Liverpool's finest bands, been in the industry for over 20 years. Some great stories about working with bands like Biffy Clyro, great producers. I just loved it. It's one of the most open and honest interviews I've done, and I really can't wait to see the band in the new year and listen to their brand new album, which is coming out on February the 21st. I hope you guys at home have all enjoyed the interview as much as me, and if you have, please take the time to share it. I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all you have to do is hit literally with your thumb or finger a couple of buttons to share this episode. You don't realise how powerful that is. I don't have a big marketing team. I don't have this big budget. It's just me on my own. I'm an independent podcaster. So if you guys can just spread the word on Instagram as your story or like it, just help the algorithm. Just hit that little heart button. On Twitter, why not share it? Or on Facebook as well. Just hit that little heart button and like it. It goes a long way and really helps get the word out there. I do obviously have a Patreon. I don't think you could do a podcast without this. And that is basically a way of me saying thank you and you guys getting that little bit more for supporting the podcast. There's a link on markandme.com. You can sign up for as little as £2 a month. I guarantee you get a welcome pack with a sticker, with some badges. You get a monthly newsletter, and you also get exclusive episodes which are called The Lost Tapes, which won't be available to anyone, only people that support me on Patreon. And the first one of those is going to be out in just a couple of weeks' time. Now, before I go, I also want to give a second shout out to another sponsor of the podcast, and this one's quite new. It's Siren Craft Brew. They're offering all Mark and Me listeners £10 off your first order. All you have to do is to go to sirencraftbrew.com and use the code 10MARK. That's the number 10 and Mark. And you can get yourself some beautiful beers. They're absolutely brilliant. They're an independent brewery, so we should support these guys. And you'll get yourself something very cool for Christmas from this incredible website. And finally, Richer Sounds. You know the score, guys. These guys have been with me for a couple of years now, and I'm so grateful. If you're in the market for anything to do with TV, video, home video, anything like that, audio, headphones, whatever you want, go to richersounds.com or any of their high street stores, and they will not be beaten on price. And I'm so grateful for those guys for always supporting the Mark and Me podcast each and every week. Guys, even though the Big 400 was this massive build-up, I'm not going to slow down anytime soon. In fact, I think you're probably going to get about 3 episodes this week alone. So, until then, go and listen to the Wombats, look after yourself, take care, and I'll speak to you all very soon.
I am a lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wire, I can hear you through the whine, and the Wichita lineman is still on the line. I know I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. And if it snows, that stretch down south won't ever stand the strain. And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line. And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line.